Adam, question comes up a lot, obviously in any field, not just commissioning or project management, but it's always like leadership skills versus management skills, and what are the differences, and how do you become better at one or the other?
Yeah, so the old manager versus leader, that is a really interesting thing. We talk about that a lot actually in my current job with ASG, where we're growing quite rapidly. So there are actually three types of people in Stantec, in ASG, in every firm. They are as follows: the individual contributor. That might be the super duper modeler, CFD person, designer, site foreman, right? But not a manager. Then there's the manager. They manage teams typically or projects, right? And then there's leaders. So let's talk about manager versus leader. Individual contributor, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being the best engineer, modeler, whatever, right? But that doesn't mean you're a manager, and it doesn't mean you're a leader. It means you're great at that job, and you should be rewarded accordingly, right? If you're the best at that, you should be objectively paid more than other people, right? So that's that. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about manager versus leader, right? So what tends to happen is, just take a firm like Stantec, it's pretty typical. Someone's in there, they come in as a graduate, they become an intermediate, they become an engineer, become a senior engineer, right? And the next level is a manager, like a project manager or a manager, right? So someone who is really great engineer, for them to get a pay rise and a bump, they need to do something they might not be good at, called managing a team or managing a job, right? So the thing that got them to the party is not the thing that's going to get them to the next party.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where it's difficult to progress in, say, Arab, Stantec, SG, because engineers typically don't make good managers. I'm sorry, they just don't. Their management skills are not great normally. But what is a manager? Managers manage the known. You take a process or a set of deliverables, you know what they are, and you manage the resources and the deliverables for that end, right?
Right.
So my thing is, managers manage the known, right? There's no mystery to what they're doing. There's no mystery to the process they're applying. Take commissioning management. There's a set of steps you have to follow, or lead. Commissioning is a set of steps you have to follow, a process you have to follow, and you can manage that process. You can manage a team to deliver that, right? So the manager can delegate responsibility for certain tasks, but still be accountable for the process and the deliverable, right? That's a manager. So managers manage the known. A leader manages the unknown. So that's the distinction between a manager and a leader. So a leader is someone like a CEO. Take the CEO of ASG. He comes into work every day. He doesn't manage a team, but he's responsible and accountable for the whole firm. He has no idea what banana skins he's going to slip on during the day, or what missiles are going to come out of left field and hit his desk, right? Things come up, he has to manage them. He has to manage the strategic direction of the firm. He has to manage the financial arrangements of the firm. He has to manage the problems that pop up every day, unknown, right? Great leaders are people that can manage on the fly. They can deal with the problem as it comes up. They don't get overwhelmed by it. They work their way through it to the next one. And they can take the toll of like thing after thing after thing that comes at them, right? They don't need certainty. In leadership, there is no certainty. There's just what comes at you. In management, there is some comfort in that you're managing a known process or a known thing, right? That's my distinguisher. Now, my definition of a leader is this: a real leader can hire someone, motivate someone, and lead someone who is better than them. Now, I'll give you an example of that. Just been watching the Netflix documentary about David Beckham, the UK football player, right? So he used to play for a club called Manchester United, one of the most storied football clubs in the UK. And that was managed. So he joined that as an apprentice at 13, and he was picked out by the manager called Alex Ferguson, Scottish guy who was the manager, the coach of the club in American language. And he pulled David Beckham in and he managed him. And he managed a team of alpha males. Every player on that team was an alpha. There was this French guy called Eric Cantona, a total like psycho alpha male, all these different people. And he somehow managed to get them together, to work as a team, to win every freaking prize and cup out there. And Alex Ferguson is not a football player. He's a coach. He's a leader. Right? Now, in our job, there are project managers and project managers, right? Some project managers manage a small job or a small process, and some of them manage a massive project. I'd argue that that is a leadership role. You manage design teams, construction teams, you manage issues from the client and what comes up on site every day. Sometimes you walk in, you have no idea what's coming at you. That's a leader, right? And some people can do that well because they can get people like Alex Ferguson, who was running Manchester United. They can get people to follow them and come together for an outcome, something that is bigger than them.
You got to have, I mean, obviously, I think maybe what I'm picking up is like, but you have to know management skills first in order to be a leadership skills, or do you have to be a leader first, know management?
Well, that's a nice question, actually. So what are management and leadership skills? So when you're an engineer, before you become a manager, all your skills are what I call hard skills. They're about calculations and engineering knowledge, right?
Right.
Defined. So 0 is the 1, blah, 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 blah. When you start managing and leading, soft skills are what become dominant.
True.
Right? So soft skills are communication, being able to persuade people, being able to get people to do things they don't necessarily want to do. Enrollment is a good word here. Enroll people in the mission, not themselves. Right?
Yeah.
That is not a hard skill. It's an art form. It's a soft skill.
So whenever I think about leadership skills, like what you just said, you hit on a lot of them. I always basically say it's like people oriented. You're being transformational, not transactional. You're trying to do the right things. You're influencing and changing attitudes and behaviors. You're inspirational and visionary. You're listening and empowering. Sound like Tony Robbins here. You're looking for basically emotional intelligence.
Fire.
What's that?
Walking across hot coals. That's Tony Robbins.
Pretty much. You're always. I mean, and another thing too is it's just like you're leading. You're asking. You're saying let's change things. You're setting goals, improvements, but basically you're leading people. And I tell whenever I speak to people all the time, and I say this one thing. I said, in order to basically lead properly, maybe I'm completely wrong, but it's just like, if I please, my girlfriend or my wife, which, I don't have any right now, it's just like, then I'm probably going to not please my boss. Right. So, but if I please my boss and I basically am out there working, making more money, I'm not going to be home, with my spouse.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like, what do you take from that? No matter what, you can't win. No matter what, you're going to lose. Right. But no matter what, you keep on pushing, because at the end of the day, it's just like, I've always wondered about the whole leadership and management skills and how you get there, because remember, Simon Sinek says all the time, it's just basically there are leaders at high positions, that are given that position. And sometimes they're really not leaders, no. Right? And because they have power, right? That's it. And then there's some leaders that are at the lower positions. They're leaders, but they just don't have the power yet, right? And you'll find the right environment or the right, place to work or your own business that you can become that inspirational leader manager, and you want to be. Okay. So why did I get into teaching? Okay. I got into teaching because I had some amazing mentors, right? And those mentors saw something in me, and they took me underneath their wing, probably because my dad died when I was younger. And then a lot of people just took me in and saw me that they can make it better. But at the same time, I mean, maybe it was a little broken bird and they made me better, but at the same time, it's just like, I do this stuff now where whenever I want to help someone, I basically say, you get what you give. So you give yourself, you give your emotion, and you become a better version of yourself that hopefully people see, but nobody's perfect. I make mistakes every day. I screw up. I say I'm sorry, but I always say I'm going to be better. And I mean, and take accountability. If I screwed up, I did. You know,
So
if you did,
accountability, that
take
is a
it.
good word, right? The difference between responsibility and accountability is a bit like the difference between a manager and a leader, right?
Yeah.
Responsibility can be delegated. Like, let's say I'm running a project, I can delegate tasks.
No.
But I'm still responsible and accountable for the outcome of everyone below me.
But you have to be real, and you have to realize that everyone is going to make a mistake, and it just depends on how you deal. Remember the whole thing about the sign of a champion is never somebody who stays at the top. The sign of a champion is when you fall from the top and you hit rock bottom. Can you get back up? Like, I feel like I feel like I get back up every day, even though I'm just like, you know what I mean? I let it out. I'll just go scream to the universe, and I'm like,
but leaders do not need coercion to get people to go in the direction they want them to go.
Well, and also projects. Like, believe it or not, I mean, I'm probably not standard like you. Like, we're very like-minded. We're very different. But at the same time, people, they want your energy. They want your passion. Because you know what? Because when you are invested, right, you can motivate other people to basically get it done. And they're going to be like, who do you want, on your team in that dark alley? Who do you want when they're like, we got to work for 2 days straight? You're like, got it. Those are the kind of people when you're like, who wants the ball? I do. You know what I mean? That's the kind of people that I want to work with. I want to work with people that says, no matter what, we're going to get this done. I pride myself on being that person. I'm your good friend, and I love you, buddy, because you're one of those people that I would walk into hell with you and just like bring it.
And I haven't coerced you, right? That's the difference. I've hypnotized you.
No, you have. I do. Yeah. I'm good. Soon I'm going to shave my head. I'm going to be just like you.
So this one way to describe what they are is talk about what they aren't, right? So one of the mistakes senior engineers make when they become managers is they try and get everyone to do everything how they do it. They want little mini-me's. Big mistake, right? They have to learn to manage by outcome and task.
Yep.
And then a leader. So a manager is a title that can be given to you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's your job title. Leader is something that is collectively agreed upon. It's not something you give yourself. When someone tells you they're a leader, I can promise you 1000% they are not. Right? The only time you know you're a leader is when multiple people look at you and go, yeah, that's a leader. Right? A leader is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, then you are not.